Hi, my name is Catherine Crace. I'm a lawyer, social worker, and educator, and I'm here today to talk to you about what happens if a mandated reporter fails to make a report. Many mandated reporters are worried that they'll get in trouble if they don't make a report to Child Protective Services, otherwise known as CPS, if they have a concern about a child. As a result, many mandated reporters make reports to CPS simply to avert a risk of being found to have failed to make that report. Many of these reports, however, are unnecessary and ultimately are problematic and destabilizing to the families they report. When a mandated reporter has concerns about the treatment of a child, instead of fearing retribution for failing to report, they should first consider if they are required to report those concerns to CPS. Because only some, not all, concerns of the care of children are required to be reported to CPS. A mandated reporter is only required to make a report to CPS when their concerns meet a definition of child maltreatment in their particular state, and they have the legally required level of suspicion to trigger that responsibility, usually what we call reasonable suspicion or reasonable cause to suspect. To help you, mandated reporters, evaluate these questions for yourself, use our mandated reporter guide. It's available to download when you sign up on our homepage at www.makingthetoughcall.info. When a mandated reporter's concerns meet the legal threshold to require report to CPS in their state, they can be held legally liable if they do not make that report. That's what we call failure to report. Mandated reporters can be held criminally liable for failing to make a report and can be successfully sued for such a failure as well. However, it is very rare for a failure to report case to be identified, and even more rare that a mandated reporter is punished for their failure to report. In order for a mandated reporter to be held liable for failing to make a report, all of the following conditions have to be met. Someone else needs to identify the child maltreatment. Someone else needs to determine that the mandated reporter had concerns that they didn't report, and a court needs to determine that the mandated reporter knew or should have known that they were required to make the report, and they did not. This is a pretty complicated set of circumstances, and thus there are very few cases where a mandated reporter is accused of having failed to make a report. And even in those rare cases where a mandated reporter is arrested or sued for failing to make a report, they're even less likely to be ultimately held responsible for failing to report. But you've probably seen some of these cases on the news. The rare cases that result in liability for failure to report are usually egregious cases where there is significant evidence of child sexual abuse or extreme child physical abuse, and the mandated reporter failed to make the report, usually to protect a colleague or employer who is the wrongdoer. You've probably seen other cases where mandated reporters are arrested and charged with the crime of failure to report, but more often than not, those charges are eventually dropped or dismissed. For decades, mandated reporters have been scared into making millions of unnecessary reports to Child Protective Services. Trainers have consistently told them, you have a concern, make the report to protect yourself. A report can't hurt, but that's wrong. The media has covered cases in ways that seem to convict mandated reporters of crimes they are eventually determined to not have been committed. These trainings and related media coverage results in mandated reporters who act on fear, not legal or ethical obligation. When mandated reporters make reports to CPS that are not legally required, the family that they report to CPS is likely to distrust that reporter and anyone else in that role. So unnecessary reports to Child Protective Services make parents and children wary of seeking help from teachers, doctors, nurses, social workers, therapists, etc. Families that don't feel comfortable seeking help are not getting the assistance they need, putting children at more risk of negative outcomes. So instead of making unnecessary reports to Child Protective Services, you should evaluate whether you are required to make a report to CPS, and you can do so using our mandated reporting guide on our website. Document your decision to protect yourself, and regardless of your decision, help a family find the resources they need to support their children. To avoid unnecessary reports to CPS, mandated reporters should aim to understand their role and work to support families, not report families, whenever possible. To learn more, check out our blog post, The Best of Intentions, on our website, and aim to learn more about a project to replace mandated reporting with mandated supporting. This project is spearheaded by Joyce McMillan with JMAC for Families. You can find out more information about all of these projects at our website, www.makingthetoughcall.info.